Hello.
That
just goes. It just ends. It just goes right into it. There's no
it fades out slightly.
Hello, my friends.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
How you doing?
Sorry. Did we count Clinton's? Are we overruling Clinton that his
Yes,
perfect...
we are over Clinton. Clinton, the streak is alive. Yeah, sorry, Clinton. Sorry, Clinton. You're not rid of us. The streak is alive. 89 episodes. So
maybe we'll let you.
It all counts.
It all counts. Maybe we'll let you go after episode 100.
Yeah, not dead yet. Exactly. There it is. There it is. That's what I like to hear from Clinton. Beautiful. Not dead yet. So.
I'm on day 2 of a new job.
Yay! How's it going?
It's going good. I can give you a hint of where I'm working. These guys actually know where I'm working. So, ta-dum.
There it is. Very exciting.
I'm working at Netflix. Yeah.
Kind of sounds like, what was that TV show? It was it's what was it? LA Law? No.
Law and Order.
Law and Order. There we go.
No. Wait.
Junk.
Well, LA Law also had the little something at the beginning of their theme song.
Did they?
Yeah.
And here we go. Here we go into a rabbit hole. Let's dive in.
That's not my YouTube premium account. Oh.
Let's dive into this rabbit hole together.
Oh man, fun times.
Good day, BioCow.
So our friends watching the live stream, our DTNS friends showbot is having some issues today. So if you go to it now, you see that it's showing the DTNS, still showing the DTNS ones. I cannot clear it. The code does not work. And I don't know if anybody else is having it, but it's taking a really long time for it to load. So I think it's having some issues. So we'll deal with it.
Is that Law and Order?
Yep.
I totally mixed up Law and Order with LA Law. LA Law is very 80s or 90s.
80s. LA Law was 80s.
Oh, so much saxophone, you guys. So much saxophone.
Oh, man, yeah. The saxophone players were happy in the 80s.
Oh my god.
They were like so in style.
That one
was
like
they were kind of like rock and roll artists. That was a decade for the saxophone for sure.
All right, so it looks like Showbot list has been reset. Thank you, BioCow and Twitch.
Yeah,
for doing that. But submitting may be hit and miss. Apparently, some web hosting issues. So submitting might be some issues. So just try submitting your titles. If not, save them locally, and then at the end of the show, you can throw them in the chat, and we'll find a good one from there. So.
Just, you know what? We're doing the best we can.
We're doing the best we can. That's all we can do.
That's all we can do. That's all we can do.
Oh, that reminds me. Speaking of that, Jason, remind me after the show when we're done, when we're off. I had a conversation with somebody at Google today. I wanted to relay to you. So. Yeah, nothing juicy or secret. Just
sounds interesting.
Just another person to go meet when we're at I/O and that sort of thing. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, on the search side of things. So. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like every couple of weeks we meet a new name from Google, and they're all so nice.
They are so nice. And every time we meet a new name from Google, we're like, yeah. We're meeting another name from Google. Keeps happening.
So we're very appreciative of the work we do. So that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's somebody's appreciative.
Yeah, geez.
Everyone here in live in chat and everybody in Mountain View. Not everybody. A couple people in Mountain View.
Key people.
Yeah. Few key people. All right.
Let's see here. Sorry, I'm getting other things in place that I need, and then I will get to go.
I loaded the video and the email, so my stuff is done. All right.
Okay.
And
let's see here. I am hoping, y'all. So we did get feedback from someone who was like, I can't take the clicking on Jason's microphone anymore.
Yeah.
And I hear you.
We apologize.
I apologize. It requires me to get an electrician out here and do some changes to how this room gets internet and stuff. So I'm working on it. Promise it'll be better.
We're working on it.
Hopefully it's not clicky today. I moved the Eero up here.
Okay.
Thinking like, oh, maybe that will help. Maybe that'll help kind of bridge the gap. Like I don't really have
Literally
much of another
bridge,
choice.
a
Yeah,
Wi-Fi bridge.
exactly. And so far, so good. You haven't been hearing
I
clickies.
haven't heard it. Yeah, it's been.
Nope.
I've heard a couple of things from you guys, but I'm assuming it's me and not you. I don't think anyone else is hearing it. I'm guessing.
Listen, Jason, I don't know how to tell you this.
Yeah.
But it's me. It's not you.
Okay, well then I'm not worried about anything then. It's
You
your
know what's
problem.
really fun is
Deal
that
with it.
when I was talking to the aforementioned person at Google, I was just giving the quick 2-minute bio of our show, and whenever I tell this story of like, well, we've been doing this since 2011. It's just like it's always a wow. So
We've been doing this podcast for a long friggin' time. You know what I noticed, or what I realized the other day when I was doing a Daily Tech News Show briefing, and I realized, their numbers at this point are just, as far as episode numbers are concerned, what is it,
crazy.
DTNS?
Yeah. Thousands, right?
Well, yeah, it's like 4,993.
Yep.
And I mean, I knew how and why that happened when Tom, was done at Twit and did his own thing. He basically did
Kept
a rough,
the numbering, right?
rough estimation of how many of this daily kind of news show thing he's done with Buzz Out Loud and Tech News Today, I believe, and just brought it over here. And I was like, why didn't we do that? Like, we totally could have done that.
Yeah, no, I did think about that when we started this, and I feel like we even discussed it. Like, did we just pick up the numbering and I don't know if it was spite or anger or whatever, but like, no, we're doing number one. Like we're
doing our own thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Clean break.
Yeah.
Clean break.
I don't remember exactly what it was though, Wynn. Do you remember? Or?
I feel like we wanted to make a clean break.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's what it
we were
was.
Just feeling
Yeah.
a little...
Our thing is our thing and not something else.
Yeah. I don't want to say we didn't feel salty, but we're just like, let's make a clean break.
Yeah.
Put the past behind. Well, we can't put the past behind us because all of our lovely.
No, but just move on. Right?
Move on. Yeah. Just
start something new.
if we really thought about it, maybe if it was us today back then, we would have.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, right. Yeah. Anyways, 4,900. They're closing in on 5,000.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. Yeah. Anywho, should we do a show that's about Android?
Oh, that's a good
Maybe
idea.
even all about it.
I'll close my door for that. 1 sec. I'll close my door and then we can get started. My bad.
Entirely about Android. That in an alternate universe, our podcast was named entirely about Android. EAA. Oh, it just rolls off the tongue.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. This is going to be a little different.
Right, so, live stream viewers, we have a sponsor
Yay!
tonight. It's the first show of a month-long sponsorship, so bear with us. But it's a cool sponsor for our developer friends, so bear with us. But we haven't done this for a couple of weeks, so we got to get the system in place again. So.
Let's see here. Does that work? Yes. So probably when we do it, I'm going to want to full screen it. Eh?
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yep.
And then banners. Banners? We don't need no stinking banners. Actually, you know what I can do? I can save this as a scene.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
And then the next scene will be not that. It will be, no, go away. The next scene will be that. And then the next scene is this. Oh, but where's the background?
Yeah.
That's weird. That's really weird.
There you go. Just added it.
Oh,
back.
okay. I see. You have to build each one from scratch.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Okay. And then I just switch on that. Okay. Okay. And then I'd be coming back here. And when I'm going to remove you from the stage. And then I'm going to stop my cam. Then I'm going to show you.
Hello, friends.
And then I'm going to, let's see here. So I'm still over here. I'm going to do the overlay. So this is the question that I have is if I've got the overlay in 2.
Can you hear me? I have no feedback. Maybe the chat can tell me if they can hear me.
Oh, you couldn't hear me. I'm like talking to you.
We lost your
like,
audio. There we are.
Yeah, because the first scene didn't have any cameras assigned to it.
Okay, good. All right,
I get it. Oh, StreamYard's so crafty.
All right, before we like do the show, do you know what you do after I do the read? Do you switch to the overlay or what's okay? Okay. We lost your audio again, Jason.
Oh, yeah, you did.
It's removing. You don't remove from your stream. You just stop your camera. Yeah, you stop your
No,
camera.
I'm not. I'm just switching the scenes. The scenes weren't set up right.
Oh, it removed you again.
No, yeah. So when I switch to that scene, it's like, nope, no one's on it. So hold on one second. Okay, I want it to.
Should have done this before the show.
Yeah, this is fun though, right? Don't you guys love this?
This is the behind the scenes stuff you show up for.
Yeah,
right?
this is the bonus footage. Okay, and I'm gonna give up on it if this doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can hear you. I just had to add myself. Well, that's dumb. Okay, I think this will work. I'm just going to go with it. So go ahead and do your ad, and then I think everything else will work. And if it doesn't, you can throw me out of the window. Or
we can always start again. It's fine. You'll overlay music, pull the overlay, bring up my camera. Yeah. Okay.
Got it.
All right. Cool.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. This episode of Android Faithful is brought to you by the Square Mobile Payments SDK. Developers, now it's easier than ever to integrate the market leader for payments into your mobile apps. Find out more at bit.ly/AndroidFaithful. Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Android Faithful. We're your weekly source of the latest news, hardware, apps, emails from our listeners, fun banter, cool new sponsors, awesome stuff. I'm Ron Richards.
Dang, we got a lot of stuff to offer. I'm Jason Howell.
I'm with that Dow.
Welcome, my friends. It is our 89th episode. It is April 8th, 2025. I'm going to start saying that more often on the show. I don't know why. We never date it, really. But yeah, we are well within spring. We are about a month and a half out from Google I.O. Mishaal is not with us again. He's out having fun. But we're going to hear from him again on the show. We recorded with him earlier, yesterday, in fact. So he's going to talk about Android 16. But
he's coming back.
How's everybody doing? Win, how are you?
I'm good. I I have a new job.
Congratulations. Do tell.
You guys already know. Yeah, I just started working at Netflix this week. So,
Right on.
ta-dum.
Very cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. I will state, I guess, once for now that my opinions are my own of nothing and are not representative of Netflix's opinions. And yeah, there you go. I probably will be mum on any Netflix stories from here on out for at least a little bit. But yeah,
understandable.
That's fair. Yeah.
Otherwise,
Totally fair.
It's good. Ta-dum.
Well, welcome back to the full-time employee world.
Yes, corporate life is back.
If you do me a favor in your new corporate life and your new corporate job, I don't know if you guys do Slack or Teams or whatever, and don't tell me, I don't need to know, but if you could just let John Mulaney know that I'm enjoying his talk show, that'd be great.
I will.
Piece of cake.
Yeah.
Easy.
I'm sure he's in there, right? He's in there in the Slack.
Yeah, he's
right?
probably on one of the all hands that I got invited to this week. So I'll make sure I'll tell John that Ron Richards personally said that he's really enjoying your show.
Nice. All right. Well, before we get to the news, I want a quick note to everybody. You got about 24 hours. Those of you in the audience, if you haven't taken advantage of going to Threadless to pick up an Android Faithful t-shirt, they're having a 15% off sale off of everything. You could use promo code everything15 and get 15% off anything you get on our Android Faithful store over there. And that expires tomorrow, I think like around 6 o'clock Eastern. So, those of you watching the live stream, go do it right now. If you listen to the podcast first thing Wednesday morning, go do it as soon as you get to work. You got all day Wednesday to do it. If you listen to this Thursday, sorry. I'm sure there'll be another sale coming soon. And you could
just go there and buy it.
At list price. That's fine. That helps us too. And you can do that over at AndroidFaithful.threadless.com. Whenever there's a sale, I just want to let people know. So AndroidFaithful.threadless.com. Head over there and check it out.
We should pick another AF lore piece and work on a shirt.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's time.
Yes,
friend of the show. Is it finally time to have a friend of the show shirt?
Is it time? Yeah.
Maybe y'all need to let us know, what is the thing from Android Faithful that you want to see on a t-shirt?
Good idea. Yeah. If you have any terms from the show or images, email us at contact@androidfaithful.com. We'll see what we can do.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. I think Mishaal's the only person who bought a Leaky Peaky t-shirt. Just
and Ron has the numbers to back it up.
Yeah. I mean, I have one, but I got it to make sure it printed okay. But yeah. I like the little fedora guy. It was sneaky. It was like a spy t-shirt. I thought more people would like it.
We're learning, you know. The standard frequency logo is kind of more simple by comparison.
Maybe
that's part
busy,
of it.
Too busy.
Yeah.
Would anybody want one of the freaky AI generated bug droid as a character in a theme park? You know, like the 3D. You know, like felty kind of one.
Oh boy! And will that age well? That's the big question.
I will tell you the t-shirt idea that I had that we didn't do, that we completely missed the boat on because of the whole RCS thing and Apple. Like I had a time machine 2 years ago. I wanted to do a Green Bubble Pride t-shirt.
We would have sold shirts, dude.
We would have sold shirts, and I missed the boat on that. So,
I mean, Green Bubble is still a thing. It's still a thing.
Yeah. Would people buy Green Bubble Pride shirts? Let me know. So.
All right. We've talked about it long enough to ensure that people will email us with their thoughts. I'm guaranteeing it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's get into the news.
All right. Well, how about we talk about something a little less fun, but unfortunately very omnipresent. We're going to talk about the T word, y'all. We're going to talk about tariffs. And unfortunately, I feel like Jason and I have been talking about tariffs for like 2 weeks straight. Because we're both doing DTS briefing. We're just like every day, it's like a tariff story.
It's hard not to.
It's hard not to, because it is going to impact us as smartphone enthusiasts and even as Android enthusiasts in particular. So let's talk about let's talk about specific case, and then we'll talk about general. So regardless of whether you are pro or whatever the anti-tariff, it is going to be undeniable that it will impact smartphone sales, smartphone pricing, and specifically for smartphone manufacturers. So sammobile.com is examining, as a Samsung fan site, Samsung in particular. Now, here's just a small example. So Samsung phones, no Samsung phones are manufactured in the US. Most Samsung phones sorry, that's not correct. Let me rephrase. Most Samsung phones sold in the US are made in Vietnam. And the amount made in Vietnam is up to 10 million units per month, which is 45% of Samsung's global production capacity. Now, given the fact that the US has now placed 46% tariffs, discounted tariffs on products manufactured in Vietnam, there's basically just no way that this is not going to impact consumer pricing, or if any, at the best, it will prices will stay stable, and Samsung will have to take a smaller profit margin on phones, or in the worst case for us, prices will have to rise, which is difficult because Samsung has generally managed to keep their prices stable for the S series, for example, for the past few years. But in this case, again, given that, for example, Vietnam, a high tariffed country, is just a huge part of their manufacturing base, it's just going to happen. Samsung is going to have to make a choice between either smaller profit margins, which may not be a big deal for some of the bigger ticket phones like the Samsung S25 Ultra or the Z Fold, the Z Fold 7, which are over $1,000 phones. But this will definitely be cutting into the mid range, and that's where a lot of us live, and that's where a lot of us Android faithful like to buy phones, in the mid range, and that's where this is going to start hurting. This is gonna start hurting. So there is, of course, the longer term option for Samsung to widen and utilize its manufacturing base in other countries like India, where the tariff is 26%. But these things won't happen overnight. So that is just one report. And if you want to just get deeper, it's going to be all over the board. Our very reliable source of numbers, Counterpoint, has not a hot take, but a first take on the impact of U.S. tariffs. And I mean, they just basically state higher prices lead to lower demand. That's, quote, Economics 101. And basically, as a whole, the U.S. is not a manufacturer of smartphones. The smartphone supply chain is dominated by Asia, China, South Korea, Taiwan, India, and Vietnam, all of which are, have tariffs in the multiple tens of % levied on them. And the smartphone supply chain rely on, quote, complex, deeply integrated networks all outside of the U.S. So yes, while the long-term hope of tariffs would be that manufacturing is moved stateside, according to Counterpoint, this isn't, quote, happening overnight, forever in parentheses without massive government subsidies and around the clock availability of skilled labor. And even then, prices will soar because of a lack of cost arbitrage. So another part of the story is semiconductors. Well, semiconductors are luckily exempt for tariffs from now, but they are still downstream of the global supply chain. So while semiconductors themselves are exempt from tariffs, again, global supply chain problems. And this is something that we, experienced during the pandemic when I think the droughts in Taiwan and things like that, all of that had like a cascading impact on the supply chain and caused like all the kind of disruptions that we saw there. So all of this is, and since the pandemic, since that time, supply chain diversification has been happening and is coming, and very likely will be driven by the tariffs. But again, it is not going to be quick. It is not going to be overnight. And even something like semiconductors, they are directly upstream from smartphones, and it will feel the impacts. And I guess just as an interesting fact, this will change things around. Like a lot of times these days, when we think of semiconductors, we think of course Taiwan. For those in India, though, it actually might be an interesting opportunity to see what India does in the next several years in terms of manufacturing, because of the fact that they currently have a 26% tariff compared to some of the other countries that I mentioned that dominate the supply chain in Asia. It might be a good opportunity for India to kind of position itself to be a future dominant hub in this space. So, sorry, we had to talk about it, but it is going to impact all of us. It is going to impact the tech industry, and it is going to impact us as consumers of technology. I don't know, like, is it possible that even like the 25% tariff on passenger vehicle imports influences our conversations about Android Auto, or where
God,
like
who knows? Yeah.
Well,
smart.
I mean, to your point, it's going to impact everything. I mean, it's already impacting my sanity, and just I'm sick of the word. But, but like I'm dealing with this in my, at Scorbit, because we're,
right.
we're in the process of manufacturing the next, kind of the next version of our hardware, and we're, we source materials. We previously did manufacturing in China, like we're figuring out, and we knew that there was going to be some tariff stuff to deal with, and we budgeted for that as we were doing it, but to the extent that it's become and what's happening, and it's just hard, and part of it is the push pull, and like, yes, it's happening, no, it's not happening, and all this sort of stuff. It makes it hard for you to do business. But that, so it's gonna hit everything, no matter what the current administration says or not. It's gonna impact everything. But I did, and Jason, I don't know if you saw my note, but I did add some links into our doc about the story. There are U.S. made smartphones out there, though, right?
Yes.
And
have we heard of them?
Well, we haven't heard of them, but there are two things I just want to highlight, which are very interesting, which we talked about on the show in the past. One of them, if you go to the website Purism, PURI.SM, there's a company called Purism that makes a whole bunch of different phones that are American made. If you scroll down on their website, you see they say "Made in the USA" in big letters and things like that. They're very big on privacy. They have the Liberty phone and all this sort of stuff. These are not running Android, just so you know. They're running Pure OS, which is a Linux-based from the ground up OS that they've developed themselves. Your mileage may vary. I don't know what to tell you if these good phones or not, but they are out there. They're made in the US. These are options you could choose from. And why this sprang to mind is another company that we haven't talked about, which I've been looking for a reason to talk about on the show, called Orbic, which is actually based here on Long Island. They're actually right in my backyard. And they make phones, they make e-bikes, they make laptops and things like that. But what's interesting is that, and this happened last year, there was a news article that Verizon actually invested $30 million in this company to move their manufacturing from China to Long Island, New York.
Oh, wow.
So this is a year ago. Now, I don't know whether they've moved that manufacturing, if it's happening or not, or whatever, but they make very, very low price, affordable phones that run on, like, I think if you go to a Verizon store and you're like, what is that phone? More than likely, I think it's an Orbic. But they're there and they're trying to make manufacturing in the U.S. work. So, who knows? Maybe the tariffs push this in that direction, and we start. We become less reliant on the Samsungs and the OnePluses of the world. And who knows what Google does with their manufacturing? Does Google take a page for? Moto was making the Moto X's in Texas, if you remember. I don't know if they still are or not, but
Moto X's made in Texas.
So. Yeah, so I don't know. So I just thought it was interesting. Like, are there any phones that are built in the U.S.? And apparently there are some. So
What about?
there are no foldables. I couldn't find any foldables with.
Yeah,
so,
I just could just clarify.
Yeah.
I guess when counterpoints that the U.S. doesn't manufacture smartphones, I guess not on the scale that we think
yes,
of.
and
Yeah,
also,
right,
and also,
right.
and also, I should point that manufacturing smartphone doesn't mean the same as it doesn't mean you're manufacturing every component going into the phone.
Right.
Even if you're getting chips and semiconductors, to your point, from Korea or from China or from wherever, those are still getting hit with the tariffs on the import and all that sort of stuff. If the components are coming from another country, they still are impacted by that. So I don't think anyone is starting from a blank piece of paper and building and then ending up with a phone at the end of the power plant, building at the end of the manufacturing plant, building it with everything made in the U.S. anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm seeing some folks in chat who are saying, tariffs are all about negotiation and stuff. And I guess when I read that, the implied message that I read out of that is, don't worry, it's short term, and this will all get negotiated out. But I think you're right, Ron, that no matter what, like even if that's true, and I believe that is true to an extent for sure, that might be the hammer to the nail. But I don't think that means that it doesn't impact the prices that we see in some way, shape, or form. There's too many different directions being impacted here and being affected by this, even with negotiations and whatever. I think at the end of the day, and it's all a guessing right now. But I think at the end of the day, it just means these devices are probably going to cost more in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
And thankfully, it's happening at a time when companies like Google, like Samsung, have already gotten serious about their update promises and promised 7 years, so that if it's, if you get priced out, at least your device lasts longer now, or at least your device is backed up by the company to last longer. Yeah. And I guess that's an upside. Yeah.
Yep.
I hope the mid-range section doesn't narrow out, just because I think we've covered before that companies love the premium end because they make a lot of money and they like to convince us to pay more money for the things that we already have. So I just hope in the short term it doesn't hollow out the mid-range, because we all like that. And then, like, maybe the companies are like, hey, go ahead, rely on that secondary market, and then we'll just keep making premium, crazy quadruple, like what would 100-fold phone be? Hectafold? I don't know. Whatever.
Centa-Fold.
There you go. Centa-Fold. Oh,
Centa-Fold.
Centa-Fold. A Centa-Fold phone.
It starts out the size of like a crumb, and you just keep unfolding it until.
What I want is a smartphone in the shape of those old fortune tellers that we used to do in school. Remember when you fold the paper and you would do that? Yeah. So that's what I would like. So. Anyway, all right. Well, obviously we're keeping an eye on it. We'll see what the impact is, and then we'll see what the response is from the companies. I'm very active, obviously, in the pinball world, and we're already seeing there was one pinball manufacturer that's based. They're called Dutch Pinball because they're based out of Europe, and they've already come out and said we are not shipping to the U.S. anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
Framework, the laptop company, has discontinued or stopped shipping their kind of entry level laptops for that reason. They're just like we'd lose money if we sold them based on.
They're under no obligation to provide their products to us if it doesn't make business sense. So I don't blame them.
Yeah.
And the Switch 2 canceled pre-orders for the US for now, even after everyone was waiting for that Switch 2 update. So
Yeah, the
gonna
Switch 2
be
is a
interesting.
mess.
Already is. And yes, I'm sick of the T word too.
Yeah, I just want another word. It's just give me a different word. Anyway, all right. So
presents. Should we make it overly positive?
Presents. Make it a little,
what about
gifts.
treats? Treats also starts with
treats. Treats. That's what it is. It's the other T word. It's treats.
All right. Well, switch gears a little bit. As mentioned at the top of the show, Mishaal couldn't be with us again this week. He's off having fun. But Jason and I did catch up with him yesterday to find out what the latest under the hood of Android 16 that we can expect is coming. So let's hear from Mishaal. All right, we're back with Mishaal. Mishaal, you can't join us again this week. We missed you last week, but it's nice that we're able to get together in these little pre-recordings. We're talking here on Monday, April 7th, the day before we record this week's Android Faithful. How you doing, Mishaal?
I'm doing good.
Welcome back to the show, like you're a guest again.
The old AAA days.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're going under the hood with Android 16 with the latest. So what do you got for us, Mishaal?
So I have broadly 4 changes to talk about. I'll start with the first one that is kind of most relevant to users if it's implemented widely by app developers. So it's the way that currently app settings work on Android. Right now, if you want to change an app setting like Trello, Discord, Slack, Telegram, whatever app, you have to actually open the app, find wherever it hit its settings menu, and then go from there. But it looks like Google is working on a new API in Android 16 that would allow applications to provide their app settings to the big Android settings app. So you'd be able to open the dedicated settings app and then find the app settings from there and then change them. Depending on what
your headline here says is not as bad as you think, because my first instinct when you said that was trying to change settings on my wife's iPhone, and I cringed when you said they're trying to. It's be similar to how they do it on iOS, because
Like, where do I look for it?
That is a miserable. That is a miserable experience.
So the way iOS does it, as you mentioned, iOS does something similar. Like you can change some app settings from the iOS settings app without opening the app itself. But from what we can tell, this is actually very far. There's very few apps on iOS that actually support this. So, like for most apps on iOS, you still have to open the app itself to change its settings. There are some apps that do support this, which is kind of why I say it's not as bad as you think, because there's a question whether or not this is even something that Google wants to expose to third-party applications, even though they made the API public. So, that's one of the reasons I'm questioning whether or not it'll be bad at all on Android.
I mean, do they sometimes make these APIs just to like play around with it and kind of get a sense, and then eventually like, actually, let's not.
It could have been a mistake. It could have been intended only for system apps, but they accidentally made it public. That sometimes does happen, but we don't know for sure because Google hasn't commented on it.
Yeah.
The other reason why I think it's not that bad is because, again, this is something that apps have to opt in to support. Probably the vast majority of apps will continue to have their own settings within their own apps that you have to open to change, because they want you to access their app and like they want control over their own settings, right?
Right.
So I don't think it's going to be that bad, assuming any app developers even implement it.
And I don't know, like I've seen on iOS how this is done, and you include some screenshots in here to kind of illustrate how in the regular settings app you can get to Gmail and Asana and Slack on iOS. But that doesn't mean that if you're in the Gmail app itself, that settings isn't surfaced there also, right? Because when I think about this, I think about like, oh, well, great. Here's like fragmentation for settings. You know what I mean? It's like, do I go to the settings app or do I go to the app itself? And hopefully it's both.
Ideally,
if they're
it'd be both.
showing up.
But it's interesting also because I think about it oftentimes because like I've inadvertently turned off notifications on apps that I've wanted notifications on, and I've gone into the app looking to adjust the notification settings, or I've gone into the settings to the notifications permissions. Right. And it is already starting to get fragmented in the split between what is a OS level permissions versus what is an app level settings. Right.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, the app itself should recognize, that they should have a toggle. Even though the toggle is controlled by the system, they should still have like a toggle or a shortcut that leads you to the app notification, the OS notification.
Some way to get to it, right? Yeah. Like you should, from a user experience, you should be able to we know you're looking for this. This is where you can find it.
This is where you can find it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So
All
what
right,
else?
and
Interesting.
The next change is not strictly Android 16 related, but it's related in the way that Google makes requirements for new OS versions. So there's a new feature in the Vulkan graphics API called Host Image Copy. And the Vulkan graphics API, by the way, is something we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where Google decided to make it the official graphics API for Android.
Yep.
And basically that means that they're going to make every single interaction with the GPU go through the Vulkan API. So basically this new feature in Vulkan 1.4 is called Host Image Copy, and what it does is instead of having the device's GPU create like a buffer to hold images before like rendering them, it's going to instead have the CPU do that work for it. So it's going to have the CPU copy images and then directly write it to the screen. So this helps out with the GPU by reducing how much memory it has to do, reducing how much work it has to do. And in practice, it even halves how much memory has to be used for the GPU to load textures. And a Google engineer specifically called this a game changer feature for Android games, just because it can reduce stuttering when loading textures by a lot. It also, as I mentioned, halves the GPU memory use. And because it frees up the GPU resources, it can actually allow the GPU to focus on rendering the game and the frames itself. So there's a lot of benefits for games that implement this new Vulkan feature. But the thing is, it requires a new version of Vulkan. It requires the GPU to support it. So what Google is doing is saying, if your Android device launches with the chipset that launches with support for Android 16, that GPU must support this feature. So basically, next generation chipsets from Qualcomm, MediaTek, Samsung, and Google itself, like the upcoming chipsets, not the ones on market right now, will be required to support this feature. There are some devices that already do support it, but this will become a mandatory feature for new chipsets going forward.
So if you're playing Genshin Impact on your device, you might notice a difference. Like, you know, like is this going to be the kind of noticeable thing, and probably only for a certain tier of games with a certain graphic requirements?
Depending on, I think any game that implements it will see big benefits. So the thing is,
Really?
the game has to implement it. Even though the device supports it, something that still the game has to implement.
Right.
But if it does
right.
implement it, you'll notice big benefits.
And
But
I
it's not going to be like a toggle you'll turn on and off in settings. It's something the game
Right.
does under
It's
the
just
And I gotta imagine Google's working with those big developers and saying and promoting to implement it and that sort of thing. Fun fact: Vulkan, spelled Vulkan, is the German word for volcano. So I was curious where the Vulkan name came from. Whether they just changed the C to a K and it was a Star Trek reference, but no, it's the German word for volcano. So.
Hopefully that doesn't mean that your device runs really hot when it's tapping into the GPU.
Because it explodes with graphics. It just does.
You're going to need some vapor chambers in that device.
And also, how hard, Mishaal, is it when you're talking about Vulkan and all this stuff to avoid saying this is a game changer for games?
He's like, I hadn't thought about that. But
it's not an
there's my headline.
oxymoron. It's not redundant, but it's something. It's some sort of literary mechanism there. Right?
Game changer gets used so often. Oh my goodness.
But in games,
I couldn't avoid it because
No, sure,
blog post he calls it a game changer for games.
Yeah, totally.
It's a game changer for games. Anyway, all right. What other fun stuff is there coming? No.
So the next change involves this change involves basically a change in the way that pull up one of the articles that I'm losing my train of thought. Okay, yeah. So this change involves a change in the way that media codecs currently operate on Android. So right now, most codecs, in order to have improved security, they run in a sandbox process. So basically, they run in an isolated process that is kept separate from the OS processes or the rest of the media framework processes or the apps process. And this is done because in the past, when you had the codec process within the monolithic media framework, and then if there were any exploits found in a codec or someone gave it really bad data or something, you could break out of that sandbox and gain a lot of permissions because the media framework is a very privileged process on Android. So starting with Android Nougat, Google isolated it into a sandbox process. However, this resulted in some CPU overhead because in order for an app to, say, play some video or play some music, it has to make an inter-process communication call, an IPC call, from the app to the media codec sandbox process, and then back and forth. It's going to constantly send data back and forth, and this results in some overhead. So what Google is working on is a new feature that allows the codec process to be run within the application process itself. So there's no IPC process IPC calls between processes. It's just all within the app process itself. And they're calling this feature in-process software audio codecs, and it requires the codec to be rewritten in a memory-safe language like Rust so that there's less of a chance for there to be exploits and for them to break out of the sandbox. So this is a feature, like Android 16 technically supports this feature, like there's API support for it, and the OEMs, the vendors can technically build codecs that support it, but at the moment there's no support, like there's no actual implementation of it yet. So like if you check all the codecs on your device, it's still under the old sandboxed approach instead of the new in-app process approach.
Cool. That seems like that's an improvement. Always better.
Yeah.
This is super under the. This is like.
I know.
This is under the hood, under the engine block. This is like.
I like streaming music and video. That's my commentary. I like to stream media.
And yeah, just this change in general, if implemented, it would make streaming music and video more efficient.
Great. That's a
Yeah.
win
Right.
for everybody involved. Let's just consume.
Absolutely.
So, yep. All right.
And the last change is also very under the hood, and it's related to how Android compiles apps in the background. So when you install an application, there's this tool under the hood called Dex to Oat that basically takes the app's compiled bytecode. So when you write an app in Java or Kotlin, it gets compiled into this machine bytecode that then gets interpreted by the Android runtime. So what Dex2Oat does is it takes that bytecode and it compiles it into some precompiled app artifacts. These artifacts can include things that help the app run more efficiently and faster. Instead of having to compile the app every single time it wants to run, it does some of this beforehand, right when the app is installed. So the problem is, for some low-end budget devices, this Dex2Oat tool, this step, could take a few seconds, especially if the application has millions of lines of code and a lot of things to check through when it's trying to compile it. So it could be a little slow. So what Google is working on is a feature called Cloud Compilation, where instead of compiling the app artifacts on device, it does it on the cloud, and then it pulls those artifacts from the cloud, like from Google Play, and uses that instead. So this is basically a very under the hood change, completely invisible to users and even app developers, but it could speed up the installation of applications.
Hey, that's a good thing. Speeding up app installation is wonderful. It's funny because I literally just this morning I was experimenting with some new apps, and I was doing the Google Play Store and the web browser as I was, and click the install button, install it on my phone, and watching the icon pop up and do the thing. And I would literally, and this is no joke, I was like, why is this taking so long? Like, it's like this day and age, like I'm watching the thing go, and as a product manager for an app myself, like you want to keep the app size small. You want, we're always talking about friction and how to get people in, to download your app quickly and get into it. And, instant apps never really took off, right? Like that was always the thing that was supposed to like pull people in and they'll use your apps without having to download them. But when was the last time anyone's used an instant app? Like no one's really kind of embraced that, or we're using it not even noticing. I don't know, but this seems like a good thing.
Every once in a while I run into an instant app scenario, but it's hardly ever. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, the problem with instant apps is it just required a lot of developer support for it.
Yeah.
You had to basically build an instant app version of your app.
Right.
Whereas this kind of change, it should be completely invisible.
Baked in.
App developers.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Everybody benefits.
Cool.
Good work.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Mishaal. We appreciate you checking in with the latest and greatest.
And then before we let you go, okay, so this is all Android 16. We continue to have information and news about Android 16. The timetable has moved up. Do we have any sense of like when we expect this? Like, is this the kind of thing that's probably going to drop anytime here pretty soon or before Google I/O? Like, what is the kind of thinking now as
when
far
is
as
Android
when we'll
16
actually
coming
see it?
out? I mean, the expectation is June.
It's June. Okay, because I know that it had moved up a little bit. So
right, yeah. I mean, imagine I/O. They're going to tout some of the stuff and lock it in, and then say like that's because I/O is late May, right? I/O is May 20th, right? So
right.
Well, I mean, they're not going to talk about any of this stuff. This is like too.
No,
this is way. Yeah.
They're not going to lead the keynote with the.
I feel like Mishaal, as we talk about this stuff, we should start kind of gauging it whether like this is coming like immediate future. Down the road, way down the road. Like that might, like as you do those articles, that might, like having some sort of gauge on a roadmap might be helpful, or at least as we talk about in the show, because it could be, because every now and then it's like, here's a thing that's installing in my phone right now, and Mishaal talked about it 8 months ago, right? Like,
right.
like that kind of. So we can explore.
Finally,
we can figure out the Mishaal gauge of Android prediction, feature
the
prediction
timetable.
So. All right. Well, thank you, Mishaal. We appreciate you popping in. Enjoy your night off, and you'll be back on the show next week, right? So we'll see you next week.
Yeah, hopefully.
Awesome.
Yay.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
See you then.
All right. Take care.
Always good to hear from Mishaal.
Why is that thing on?
When
There we go. There we go. Okay. Now I have the format.
Excellent.
StreamYard wins. Yeah. Good to get the update. And boy, that was some under the hood stuff.
Very under the hood. Did that resonate with you, the latter part? Or
a little bit. So one is that, it's kind of funny because, I know cloud everything, but there's actually the build system we use for Android, generally speaking, is called Gradle. And there's a thing called remote there's a thing called build cache, where a lot of times if you make a small change, you don't have to get your computer, you don't have to get your system to rewrite the whole, like recompile the entire code base, just the part that changed. And you can actually share that depending on if you have the enterprise version of Gradle or not, to make a remote build cache. So if someone built something with the same code that you have, you don't have to rebuild it on your own. I think you can download the remote build, which is kind of cute, which kind of makes me think of that. But way back when, people have done I just wipe my makeup off. People did studies on, for example, the time it takes to download an app and retention of users. And basically, the longer it takes someone to download an app, the less likely that they are to complete the download, and as well as to actually start up the app and use it. And this kind of informs a lot of like performance practices that we do, just in terms of like making APK size small, meaning your overall binary is smaller, which has a lot to do with how you store images and stuff. And even just strategies like that. So this makes a lot of sense, because yes, short install times means better retention and better installs. So which is good for businesses and developers. So yeah, definitely resonated.
I was tinkering around with Android Development Studio and I came across Gradle and I was just like, that's a weird word, Gradle.
Gradle, yeah.
Not even a word. Win, what do you think of instant apps? Why didn't they take off?
No, Mishaal's right. They were a bigger lift than a lot of us wanted to do, and I mean,
just laziness. It was laziness on developers.
It's just one of those things. Like the ROI, I always talk about ROI. The ROI is tiny, and the thing is, it has to be a contained experience. So a lot of times when you write an app, think of how many apps you use that require an account.
Right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of features like API calls, all of those require some kind of authentication. Yeah. And so when you build an experience that has none of that, that's actually a really big lift, and like even without instant apps, a lot of times, like for example, with Trello, we talked for a long time about anonymous boards. Can we just get someone using our product without authentication? But it gets harder and harder, like the bigger your app gets. So that was a big thing with instant apps, like because it has to be instant, right? So what can you offer someone? So like I think that one of the apps that started with instant apps was B&H Photo Video. So stores are a good example, right? Because you don't have to be logged into your whatever account to start shopping. You do have to be, you don't even have to be logged in necessarily to check out. So that was like a good use case. But for a lot of other apps, it's just there was no use case, and then it was really complicated to add on to the stuff you're already doing. So
it's funny. We went through a similar conversation recently at Scorebit, where so much of our functionality is based off of user identity, right?
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
Like, well, what can you do? Like same thing. Like we're like talking about, like, do we have like a non-logged in version of the app and then just push back the login wall, but like what's the like you're gonna log in or not gonna, like once you log in then you're in, so these are the things that developers go through.
100%.
All right, cool. Well, fun Android 16 stuff, but that's not all Google's been working on. Google's been working on search, right, Jason?
That's right. Some AI, of course, updates around search. We've heard about AI mode, and it's been kind of Google's been kind of testing it if you opt in, that sort of thing, integrated into search. And now they are using or they're rolling out an update to AI mode, if you're checking it out, to bring photo search capabilities using the onboard camera, or you can upload an image into AI mode. It's powered by Google Lens and Gemini. And they say that it's working to understand the overall scene, like the relationship of all of these objects to each other, and not just a single object inside of the scene. So, for example, one of the things that they show off is, understanding what all the books on a bookshelf are instead of a single book, or instead of this is a bookshelf. It might understand part of that, but it will also do something called query fan out, where it will run searches on the entire image, and then it will also identify individual elements within the image and run searches on each of those, and kind of, create context and correlations between all these things, and hopefully give you a smarter result. So, I mean, at the end of the day, all of these systems coming from competing, companies and everything, they're all right now in we've got to be truly multimodal in all of our products. And so we're seeing a lot of updates like these in all of the products, at different timetables. And then related to this, but it wasn't part of the news, but I ran across this, is you remember a couple of weeks ago we talked about changes to Gemini Live. Actually, that was announced, I think, at Mobile World Congress, and that's starting to roll out. So if you have certain phones, you might have a version of Gemini Live that includes the camera button as well as the screen share button, so that you can actually test this out and use the pass-through camera and point it at something and say, hey, what am I looking at? And those kinds of features. So multimodality coming to more of Google's products. That's basically what's going on.
That's what I was gonna say. Like the demos that we saw at Google I/O last year of the using the camera and the walking around and pointing at stuff, and then using I've been using Lens more and more with my kids. Like I think we talked about it recently on the show where my daughter will come up to me with a bug and be like, "What's this?" Right, and I just use Lens to kind of tell me what it is. Having that be in search, and being like, to the example of, pointing it at a bookshelf and getting information about the books on the shelf and all that stuff. That's the kind of Star Trek next level stuff that I want to see out of the AI modes. And it's nice to see it coming, I'll say, faster than I would have expected. So, it just shows, how much the ripple effect of Gemini across all of Google. We were talking about a couple of weeks ago of the impact of AI into Google and just how it's hitting, we're seeing it in different parts of the company, and here search is coming up saying, look what we can do with this. And it's kind of neat to see this, not an arms race, but just kind of a developmental race.
One up in each other.
Yep, indeed.
What about this? What about this? Yeah, it's cool stuff. I think that Gemini Live feature, played around with it a little bit. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very useful. I think, again, though, we end up in this spot where these tools do lots of really cool things. It does kind of come down to me as a user to remember that it does cool things, because again, I can't help but compare it to how Assistant promised so many things. And at a certain point, it was like everybody was developing for Assistant and it could do so many things, but you just never really turned to it, or I never really turned to it, because it was almost, I was stunted by how much it was capable of doing, and just remembering that in the first place. And so it's like, falls off the roadmap.
And it's also funny because it's like I use Assistant a lot with the Google Home, that we have in the kitchen with the little screen and everything. And my kids have learned now to ask it questions and things like that. And the hit rate of actually getting Assistant to answer the question with a solid response or return a video or something like that versus, I don't know, but here are some search results instead. Obliterating that response and having this replace it and give a conversational search result.
Something useful.
Yeah, something useful that is, not to go back to my previous joke with Mishaal, is a game changer, right? Is that the idea of the Gemini Live conversational model, agentic, when we've been talking a lot about agentic support, with an AI and all that stuff, where it's like I'm trying to come to a solution and please help me get there with the information I'm giving you and feeding you, and give me information that you have in all your crazy mega gigabytes of data that you have in Google and Mountain View, right?
Yeah.
So, yep.
Clinton props says Google Assistant has entered its senile phase.
That's for sure. Yep.
There you go.
True.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, we've got some patrons watching us as we record this live, I'm sure. And we've got a lot of patrons who listen and watch after the fact. And for that, we thank you. Patreon.com/Android Faithful. For truly, we could not do this each and every week if it was not for you and your direct support. If you haven't considered supporting, it's kind of a good time. We have some really neat plans in store, and it's not going to be much longer before we start rolling them out. So that's the tease that I'm going to give today to lead into our patron picks. And we always like to start with a little bit of art. Submitted not necessarily always by patrons. I can't remember who is it.
This is from the all-star Davor. I can't pronounce your last name. Davor D. Said he was inspired by playing with Gemini and the new image stuff, and mixed in a Bug Droid news image with his favorite movie, which if you are a cinephile, you can probably guess what movie it is by what you can see from this Bug Droid in a suit with Noodle Place to his left, and it's very rainy cityscape with blimps flying above. So yeah, very, very cool, Davor. So
It's not Blade Runner, is it?
It is Blade Runner.
It is Blade Runner.
Yes,
Doesn't
it
look
is.
science fiction-y. Like are blimps in Blade Runner, or are they more like spaceships?
I think they're blimpy.
Are there?
There weren't spaceships in Blade Runner. I guess there were flying ships, though, weren't they? It's been a while.
I can't
Yeah,
remember.
so,
It's been a
yeah.
while.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, it's a very good image.
very cool.
And a great way to fit in another piece of news, which is that I think the Pixel Studio now allows you to create images with people in them.
Yes.
So there you go.
Which I have not told my children about. So
Why? They create tons of people?
they will create people pooping in
Oh.
bouncy castles. So, yeah,
Google might not let you create.
Yeah, I know,
people
but
pooping.
still, that's what. Well, yeah,
That's what they'll try.
Yeah.
Anyways, Devor, thank you for sending that in. We have 3 stories that y'all voted on, if you were a patron, for us to talk about. The losingest story. Actually, this was a super tight, close race.
I was watching it all day today. It was neck and neck.
Yeah, I have a pile of fingernail clippings on the floor from when I was like biting my nails because it was so neck and neck. Not really. Your Android phone is always lying to you. It's not really up to date. Came in at 32%. That was the losingest one. At 33% is Android isn't the anti-iPhone anymore. I did hear about that article. I've not read that article. I heard about it today on DTNS.
A lot of people are
and it was
buzzing about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so fair. I do want to read that. And then at a whopping 35%, 2% more than the first place loser, is it looks like next gen Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses will follow the Google Glass playbook, only better. Oh, really? And how do you say that, Bloomberg? How do you know? Bloomberg had a report. Of course, this article is Android Central because it's kind of hard to show off Bloomberg stories if you don't have a subscription to it. Hypernova is the name of a pair of Ray-Bans that Meta is working on, possibly releasing sometime this year, probably by the end of this year, with a monocular display, not binocular display, although I have also heard that Meta is working on a binocular version.
But is a monocular display like a monocle, like the Monopoly Man?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
No, it is purely to illustrate that in the regular looking Meta glass, Ray-Ban glasses, down in the bottom corner of the lens is a single monocular display, color
It's
display.
much more disappointing than a smart monocle.
That would be kind of cool though.
I want a smart Monopoly Man monocle. That's what I want.
You know, at some point when the technology gets there, someone's going to do that. And
That'd
you're
be
onto
great.
something, Ron. Actually,
I would grow a big bushy mustache and wear a top hat and have my smart monocle and be able to get directions from Google Maps while I walk around.
because it's kind
I
of like
love it.
carrying a smartphone or a watch in a. But it's
Yeah.
like
Then
the
you have
best
to
of all worlds.
You don't have to wear it all the time. It's very light.
Yeah, you put it
Yes.
away.
It's flexible. Yes, like Mr. Peanut. Thank you.
Oh,
Chat.
good
There it
reference.
is. Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
I was going to say like Scrooge McDuck, but he's not wearing a monocle. Those are two very small glasses at the
tip of his nose,
tip of his bill.
or bill. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, good call.
So, yeah.
No, these are not that though. I think that when you're done with Scorbit, you need to fire up that business. Hopefully the tariffs won't be around then, or sorry, the
Oh,
treats
supply
won't be
chain.
around.
The treats.
Hopefully the scary treats won't be around then. But this is Ray-Bans, Meta Ray-Bans with a monocular display down in the bottom right-hand corner, bundled with an SEMG gesture band that goes around your wrist, which essentially tracks kind of muscular movements, impulses on the wrist for control. And this reminded me when I was at CES, I actually checked out the Mudra band, which is something similar, and you can kind of see it's being strapped around my wrist. And then let's see if I can get rid of the closed captioning for video viewers. As I move different fingers on my wrist, these different readouts on this display that's just kind of meant to show you how that it's working, whatever, kind of react to that. And I think later, I had some actual control of like playing some music and everything like that. And I'm only bringing this up because I think they're using very similar technologies between the band that would ship with the Meta thing. That has nothing to do with it. Although, isn't that cool looking? That ships with the Meta monocular glasses would have that band, and it would be kind of similar to that. It actually taps into kind of like the neural pathways is what they were telling me. I don't know how accurate that is, but for control.
So
Pretty cool.
we don't know how the Google Samsung glasses that we saw are going to work, right? Are those going to be binocular? Because those had like a AR display with, remember the video had the woman walking through San Francisco with the Google Map overlay over it, right? And that was like it wasn't on one eye, that was on both eyes.
Yeah,
right?
are you talking about Astra?
Was that Astra? No,
Yeah.
it was part of the moon the Samsung announcement. What is the
Muhan, but not Muhan.
Not
Muhan is
but,
VR.
Yeah, but the AR glasses that they announced at the same time as the VR one. It wasn't. Was that what Astra is going to be end up being?
I don't know if the Astra is the Samsung hardware, but if you're talking about looking through and down and you see the map as you're going downtown,
Yes.
yeah, that was part of the Astra announcement.
Okay.
And I mean, I saw that. Like, I experienced those. And so
From January. I mean, the announcement from January.
So there
what-
is my
what
bad.
am I missing? Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a report. Hold on, let me link it in the chat. There is a report. I think Ben Schoen actually wrote this up a little while ago, and I forgot.
Here it is.
Yeah,
sorry.
something about like smart glasses,
Yep.
like project. Sorry, I'm not good at Korean. Huyen, which is a pair of glasses with a display to show information or images on the glasses, like lenses. So that sounds more like a glass.
Here, I just dropped in the article from The Verge from December when they announced Android XR.
Yeah.
And they have there's a screenshot of the example.
Where did you put that link?
In the chat. Sorry. And here, I'll put it in. There you go. It's in the doc. And there's a screenshot of the point of view of the person with the AR with Android XR.
Yes, that's the Astra. That's exactly
That's
what
Astra? Okay,
that's
yeah,
exactly
yep.
what I saw.
Yep. Okay. Yep. All right. Yeah. So what it is it's a a dialogue box from Google Maps telling you where to go as you're walking through, but like that's not in one lens in the lower right hand corner like this Meta glasses are. That's front and center. That's got to be a binocular display, right? I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out what the difference between what Meta's doing and what Google and Samsung are doing.
So okay, having worn the glasses that Google is talking about, that may or may not be Samsung glasses. Like I checked out the monocular version of them.
Yeah.
I also checked out the binocular version.
Right.
And in that particular piece of hardware, the display is front and center. It is in front of you. It's just not always visible. It depends on whether you summoned it. It depends on if you're looking down. Like in the case of the maps, it was disappeared. And then when I started to look down, it faded in. And it was in that line of sight, just with my head tilting down, I could actually see it. I think what's different between this and Meta's glasses, based on what we know from that article, is that the display, the monocular display, so the single display, isn't in the line of sight. It's down kind of to the right of where you might consider center to be.
Got it.
And so you'd have to, I mean, my understanding is you'd have to look down and to the right in order to see the context. And that might be the better approach just because it keeps things out of your direct line of sight. I did find it a little disconcerting when things were popping up right in front of my eyesight, and you can kind of see through it, but not entirely. And, or you get used to it over time. I'm not sure. But yeah, they are definitely a little different approaches between the two.
Well, we'll see what it is. So based off using Astra, and I know you haven't used this Meta because it's just a report, but what do you think? I mean, do you think the monocular kind of off to the side is the way to go, or like from an experience? I mean, from a developer standpoint, I don't know, just from a user experience, how would you want the XR experience to be? Do you want it to not be front and center, or do you want to be smack in front of, like the line?
I think having it front and center allows for a little bit more of the I'm connecting with you when I'm talking to you, even though I'm seeing stuff kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like with Google Glass, I specifically remember seeing pictures or video of both of us using it on All About Android. And you look kind of weird, like going, oh yeah, kind of, with your eyes kind of cocked to the side and up when you're
Holy
looking at that
cow.
information. Holy cow, and all over the place, I didn't even play at that time. You did, Ron. You chose that
We
destiny.
had it. I had to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Played yourself. Literally played yourself.
You literally played yourself.
Only because Burke is in the chat. I know he'd appreciate that.
I'm sure he did.
What do you think, Win? What do you think of this?
I think I think it would depend on what kind of app you're writing. So imagine like you're writing like a fitness tracker. You probably wouldn't need like what I imagine to be the wider space that a full front binocular display gives you. Like if you're just like going for a run, you want to check your heart rate or doing some cardio, you could just like, glance down or have a little peripheral, like, I don't know, color indicator for like what heart rate zone you are or something like that. But yeah, I think it's actually an intriguing concept because I feel like we're used to like notifications and statuses. That's more or less what a watch is, right? Yeah. So I actually do think the monocular UI gives more options, just because I think sometimes when you work on random apps, like, okay, well now I work on a media app, so obviously like more screen space is awesome, but like, regular apps, you a lot of times you don't have a lot of experiences that translate well to like, a big, floating screen in front of you, but maybe just a little like indicator or notification
like off to the side,
that just lives, that just you can just check whenever you want, or just kind of gives you a peripheral like notice. I think that's cool.
I mean, and I can also share from the Astra experience, having done both the monocular and the binocular kind of versions of Project Astra. When it was binocular did not necessarily mean it was larger. It just meant that the small window of information that you had is now in 3 dimensions and not 2. That's really all it meant. But so it didn't occupy more space. It was the same amount of space. It's just it gave it 3-dimensionality.
But that's like a thing, though. I think a lot of us are being challenged on what can we do with 3 dimension. You know what I mean? Like it feels like 3 dimension.
How necessary is it too?
And it's
what does it really bring?
Exactly. Sometimes I think experience like a little kitschy when you just 3-dimensionalize them for no reason. So you want to create an experience that is immersive, but not. Yeah, as you said, like it's useful, it's appropriate. So that's why, it makes sense.
Yeah. But I'm very curious. I mean, and I will also just say really quick to put a little bit of a plug in, but definitely check out tomorrow's AI Inside podcast, another podcast that I do with Jeff Jarvis. Last Friday, we were able to book Jan LeCun, who is basically Meta's chief AI scientist, and he's kind of a big deal in AI, and I'm so happy that we were able to talk to him. But the reason that I bring it up in this conversation is because we talk a little bit about how AI is coming to these wearable form factors. And while he doesn't talk about this device directly or specifically, he definitely talks about Meta's thinking around what devices like this could and should do. And so it's a good insight into what you might be able to expect when this happens.
Very cool.
So cool.
There you go.
Awesome.
I know. It was a great conversation. I can't wait to get that episode out there. So that's tomorrow. Cool. But anyways, patrons, thank you so much for giving us the ability or your vision into what we should talk about. Patreon.com/Android Faithful. If you want to support us, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Yep. And did you thank Larry? Patron shout out to Larry McClure.
Oh, that's right. Thank you, Larry McClure.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Larry McClure.
Very cool stuff.
Thank you, Larry.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsor, because this episode of Android Faithful is brought to you by the Square Mobile Payments SDK. And listen, everybody, I know for a fact that you've definitely heard of Square, right? You definitely use their technology at some point, whether it's paying for your coffee at your local coffee shop or buying a burger at Shake Shack, one of the many companies that use Square's payment technology. Square is the cloud-based point-of-sale system that's been used by everyone from small businesses to enterprise level to enable flexible implementation of tools to fit each business in the U.S. market leader for point-of-sale systems, processing more than $200 billion annually. It's a lot of money. Square has some exciting news as they've recently launched their free mobile payments SDK for developers. So what does this mean? Well, now it's easier than ever to tap into Square's established platform and implement it into your mobile applications. The new Square Mobile Payments SDK is available to developers in the US, Canada, and Australia, and allows for easy embedding and advanced customization to help you build a streamlined and reliable payment experience for your users. Do you want to implement tap to pay on Android, or do your development in Kotlin or Flutter or React Native? Square's got you covered, as the SDK is not exclusive and works well with over 650 third-party applications and joins Square's extensive library of APIs. Along with a robust sandbox for development testing and quality assurance, so you can make sure your new payment features are the best they can be for your users. It also includes a free CRM that centralizes data from multiple sources, including third parties, that automatically updates with new data and cleans up duplication or fragments. Developers don't miss out on the leading payments provider in the biz. Check out Square's Mobile Payments SDK. You can get all the info by going to this very handy URL. It's bit.ly/AndroidFaithful. That's bit.ly/AndroidFaithful. We thank Square for supporting Android Faithful and for providing the Mobile Payments SDK. Get all the information to make your life a little easier at bit.ly/AndroidFaithful. One more time, that's bit.ly/AndroidFaithful for more info on Square's Mobile Payments SDK. Thanks, Square, for your support. And with that, we're gonna get some more hardware after this break. All right. So foldables. We were joking earlier about 100 foldable phones.
Yes. Yes, I have to say, like, I think if you were in the Twitch chat, I think we came up with a little remix of that song. Was it? Hold on, I can't sing, but like, let me see. My blood runs cold. My mid-range might not be sold. My next phone is a Centa-Fold. So yes.
Did you just sing a parody of a Jay Giles song?
Wait, whose fault in Twitch chat was that?
Who did that?
Who was that?
Who's responsible for that one? But that's interesting.
Whoever it is, I don't know if we need to elevate them and congratulate them or ban them.
Wait, was it BioCow?
I'm so confused by that one. I like it, and I don't know how to feel.
I think
about
we have a show
Cousin
title
Ja.
now. It's but it's very long. We'll have to figure out how to do that.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So we talked about a Centa-Fold. Well, we're not quite there yet, but we might be getting a quad fold. So in a patent filing in South Korea, Samsung has put in a patent for. Hold on, let me make sure I read this correctly. So we don't make any aspersions or extra implications that aren't there. But Samsung has submitted a patent for, hold on, where's the title?
Electronic device including bendable display. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
In all caps?
In all caps, very generic. But within the patent are two phones. One is a trifold, just a boring old trifold. We've seen those. But another image or diagram in the patent is a quad fold. So the quad fold presumably does have an outer display. Probably, I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. They're just wireframes. But the quad fold comes in as like, okay, imagine you fold a paper in half, and then you take each half and you fold those in half inwards. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so kind of like a pamphlet. I keep saying pamphlet. Yeah, something like that.
It's like a pamphlet that only folds inward.
Inwards. Yeah.
It's like the map of Disneyland.
Oh. Of course, you would have the reference to Disneyland. I can't even back you up on that one, Rod.
It's the tall, thin map that you open up and you can never fold it back the way it came. Yeah, So
hopefully that's not the case with this patent, but yeah, it's 4 displays with looks like 4 hinges in it.
4 hinges, yeah.
Yeah, definitely a big chunky middle hinge bit. But yeah, it is a patent. And there is a drawing for a trifold, and there is a rumored trifold, of course, that Samsung has dropped hints to. This is not like the Mate XT. It is what I think we've seen in the past is like their G fold concept, where it actually, if you look at the diagram, if you take out, so there you can see one diagram where there has like three screens. If you just take off the left side, it's basically a Z fold. It's like if you took a Z fold and you like riveted on one more folding segment. That's what this kind of looks like. So that's what their G fold. What their triple fold concept is. And if you scroll down, the reason I think it was called a G is because if you look at it from the side, when it's folded, the middle one is like a G. So yes. So who knows? This is just a patent, of course. And of course, companies don't necessarily file patents for things that they're going to make. They sometimes might just file it for establishing prior art, or maybe this is just something very aspirational down the line. They just want to establish it. This is our idea. We came up with it first. So
I was just going to say at Mobile World Congress, I got to see some of the fabled foldable devices that Samsung has done over the years, as far as kind of like, test devices, not necessarily obviously consumer releases. And one of them was kind of like a claw folding device. It was just a two hinged foldable, but it folded in on itself almost like a claw would, and it was very, very creepy looking. But this is adding an extra hinge to the scenario. So yeah, they're always playing around with these things. Who knows? I mean, how long have they been? I feel like we've been talking about Samsung's trifold concept device for a number of years now. We've been seeing
they're overdue to come up with a new form factor, right? They were the innovators in terms of getting foldable to the mass market with the fold and the flip, and it's great. But now it's tired, right? And we're seeing innovation come from Huawei and from other folks in terms of with the trifold. So like it would make sense that Samsung's just going to skip 3 folds and go to 4 folds, right?
I'd say just skip this and go to Centa-Fold, because imagine if you just had an infinite number of folds, then it just becomes a rollable phone, kind of like they just keep upping the polygons until it becomes a scroll.
We want a rollable phone.
We want those scrollables.
Yeah,
scrollables.
Rollable.
Scrollables.
Yeah. I want hard light. That's what I want. I just want I want a little puck that does a little thing and I can tap it. So.
So would you? I don't know. What do you think? Quad fold, interesting, not interesting? Just
I think it's interesting because when opened, it's basically you got like a tablet. Like it's presumably it's that wider kind of thing. It'd be great for consuming media and and all that sort of stuff. It's interesting. I gotta see how it goes in execution. Right.
The more you fold, though, the thicker the thing gets.
Yeah, that thing
right?
is going to be like
right, but the hinges are getting smaller and smaller, right? I mean, like you don't put forth this concept unless you can combat that problem, right? So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm curious. I want to see this thing, but that would be my immediate is like, okay, so if we've got 4 things folding on top of each other, though each of those things has to be really thin. I mean, regardless of the hinge, even just the depth of each layer has to be really thin. And is that enough space to fit, enough battery in there and all the other components? And, then you've got the ability of the device to survive in your pocket if you sit down and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I would love to see it. Yeah, I would love to see it. It would probably be really cool. So
next year at CES, who knows?
Who knows?
Keep an eye out. So.
Another thing that we're keeping an eye out on is a free TV button coming soon to all of your Google TV remotes, because apparently that's a thing that's going to start happening going forward. And we have one way to witness this. Actually, last year I did a review of Wal-Mart's Onn TV streamer, what it was called, the Onn 4K Pro or Plus or something like that. Anyways, there's leaked marketing materials for an upcoming replacement of that device, a new Onn 4K Plus streamer, which kind of has basically all the same components for the most part: the box, the wires, a remote that includes a free TV button, which the one that I tested last year did have that as well. And this is all tied to Google's what is it called, Google TV Free Play, which is their FAST, which stands for free ad-supported television channels, which Google's been touting up to 150 of them. So it was on the Onn device last year. Now it's going to be on this year. And this guy at Android Authority named Mishaal, also co-host on this show, wrote his exclusive that Google has said Google TV remotes going forward will have a free TV button because Google wants you to use their FAST channels, their free play. And so there you go. You got to get used to it.
So a couple of thoughts here. Going back to the Onn device, last year's model, that sucker never was in stock.
Really?
Walmart could not keep that thing in stock. That thing sold out as quickly as they put it on the shelves. So good, that is a hit device. Like if you got your hands on one of them, like it is. I don't know if it's not as good as the NVIDIA Shield, but it's definitely
it is not.
It brought connected TV to a lot of people who might not have. It definitely challenged Roku and all this sort of stuff in terms of like a lot of people shop at Walmart. The price point was correct. It brought Google TV to a lot of people. Really, really impressive. Mm-hmm. The free TV side of things, I don't know about you guys, but like, if I track the streaming world a lot. When you're gonna have to start tracking this business a lot. I could suggest some podcasts and some newsletters for you to listen to or to read. Nice. But like Pluto TV did really, really well, and then has kind of languished under the Paramount Skydance merger, and it's just been a kind of like dying on the vine kind of there. But Tubi TV has grown to a point that is like, Tubi has a larger, let's just say this, Tubi has a larger audience than Apple TV Plus, right? Which is crazy, right? So, and it's probably one of the better, it's probably one of the better known, most engagement on the fast channels kind of offerings that are out there. So of course Google's going after it because they own the operating system. Of course, they should own the fast channel because they have an ad network they could plug into those channels. Now that said, if you're familiar with these fast, if you watch Tubi or Pluto or Google's free TV, so what is it called again? Free Play stuff.
Free Play.
It's a lot of like recycled content, and I will be honest, I watch Google Free Play to watch my old game shows. I love it. I watch so much old Pressure Luck and Card Sharks and stuff like that. It's fantastic. And there's old Beverly Hills 90210, and there, me and Flo, that's where me and Flo watch it on there. And there's old Happy Days channels, and there's old Johnny Carson, and like if you're into old TV, they're a blast. They're a ton of fun. So so I don't know. I like the free TV side of it. So I'm not surprised that Google's leaning into it.
I mean, and how do you like it enough to have a button, an ever-present button on your remote that only points there? Unless you don't live in a market where free play is supported, then Google says you'll be able to map that button. Otherwise, you are not going to be able to. Unless,
well, still you're going to map it to something that it says free play, but like no, it really goes to Netflix. Like that's weird.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so if that's not the case, and it's just a thing that you never use, then it's just this oversized button on your remote. That's People like to have full ownership. Anytime those buttons on a remote that say Netflix and YouTube and whatever, even if I use those services for whatever reason, it just bugs me. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
And I should get over it because it's an easier way to get to the things. But I don't know. Like, stop it.
We'll see. Yeah.
But I guess I get it, Google.
Yeah. It's hard to argue. All right. Well, moving back to phones, very exciting for those of you who are fans of smaller phones. The OnePlus 13T is coming, and it's been branded the mini device in the OnePlus world, right? So the rumors on this phone is going to have a small screen of about 6.3 inches, which is definitely on the smaller side. Which, by the way, Jason, going back in time into the Android time machine, do you remember when 6.3 inches was a big phone?
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
So now, but 6.3 inches is described as a mini phone. But here's the thing: it's likely going to have a 6,000 plus milliamp battery in there.
Okay.
That's a lot of battery power for a small phone. The other rumors claim that it might go beyond 6,200 milliamp batteries, which is crazy. But then additionally, it's also supposedly going to be a lightweight device. The current OnePlus 13 weighs 210 grams. This phone might weigh 185 grams.
Wow.
Right? Which
like
is
freaking TARDIS or something. Is it bigger on the inside? Where did they put this battery?
It's very strange. So a lot of strange rumors swirling around the OnePlus 13T. And the next one isn't so much a rumor, it's confirmed, but we're going to see what else comes of it. But we did get confirmation that OnePlus is getting rid of the slider button, not slider button, but the slider on the side that everyone loves, right? And they're replacing it with a customizable button, which I feel like are the new hotness now in phones. We saw the nothing and things like that. And OnePlus actually shared a sneak peek of it. The OnePlus China president Li Ji Lewis shared an image on Weibo of the button where you can see it's a very, very close up of a finger on the button. And apparently the button is going to
there it is.
is going to be on the upper left of the phone, and it'll be customizable. Apparently it's going to be called quick key, but that actually might be lost in translation. It might be called something different in English, but that's why it was translated from Chinese. So we're not sure if that's actually what it will be. But they're saying it's going to be an upgrade over the old alert slider, which everybody loved. They said it's going to allow switching between mute, vibration, and ringing modes, as well as, quote, facilitate easy switching of choices in a series of operations. So we will see what the quick key potentially can do on the OnePlus 13T tiny phone that weighs next to nothing. When, it's supposed to come out later this month. So we'll
if
see.
that's for real, I'm waiting for the Ucatel response to this to be like a 60,000, milliamp phone or something, and it weighs about as much as like a dwarf star or something, and just like a whole black hole in your pocket.
It can power a small town in Montana.
Exactly, and it will. That's rugged for you.
All right.
Okay, well, so that's kind of like up in the stakes and up in the batteries. We have to take a little bit different direction for the Google Pixel 10 series camera specs, and this report comes from sources inside of Google and is reported by Kamila Wojciechowska, who he reports from very often on our show. So we mentioned before that given like the early renders and leaks of the Pixel 10 series, it looked like the baseline model was going to have 3 cameras this year. A telephoto added to the previous wide and ultra wide. Well, you don't get nothing for free, because maybe in trade-off, either from a technological perspective or maybe just from a pricing, product positioning perspective, unfortunately, the ultra wide and the telephoto lens that will be added to the Pixel 10 will be a significant downgrade from, and actually all 3 cameras, my bad. All 3 cameras on the phone will be a downgrade, or rather the main and the ultra wide cameras will be a downgrade. So previously in the Pixel 9 and Pixel 9 Pro had identical cameras, both of equal like sensor size, aperture and quality. This year, they are really separating out by basically bringing the Pixel 10 cameras down a step. So so the sensors will be like a little from a previous model, like a previous generation. The main camera will be 50 megapixels both on the Pixel 10 and Pixel 10 Pro, but will be again a different sensor and a little bit of a slower lens, Same thing for the ultra wide. Actually, the ultra wide is quite a step down. The Pixel 10 Pro will have a 48 megapixel ultra wide camera. The Pixel 10 will have a 13 megapixel camera. And then the telephoto lens will also be nothing too impressive. On the Pixel 10 Pro, there's a 48 megapixel. I would just say it's not impressive, but it's definitely there's a big spec difference. But similar, 48 megapixel on the Pixel 10 Pro, and then 11 megapixels on the Pixel 10. And of course, the sensors, as I said, are a little bit kind of downgraded. So I don't know how do y'all feel about that? Because I think one of the things is that we've talked a lot about the positioning of these different products within not just, the main, Pixel X series, but also the Pixel XA series. We've seen, a big change in the look and the specs of the Pixel A this year. And now the cameras, which, I think is fair to say been one of the selling points of the Pixel. And to be fair, it's not just raw specs that make, Pixel pictures magic. It's a lot of it is the computational photography. How does this taste? What is the flavor?
How does it taste?
What is the flavor of this to y'all, of having, especially if the Pixel 10 base model is the same price that we've been seeing, which is about $800? What's the flavor that you guys are getting from this change? For some reason, flavor. I'm hungry. I think that's what the thing is. How does it seem to you guys? Is it reasonable, unreasonable, disappointing?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think we've gotten used to things being on a similar kind of field between the devices, and so having them be different. I mean, we do criticize, or maybe criticize is the wrong word, but we do question sometimes when it comes to like the A series versus the standard versus the Pro and the XL. Sometimes it's hard to really get a clear indication of where the value proposition for, the next expensive one is, because they've all grown together towards the same center point over the last handful of years. So maybe this is this is Google figuring out how to kind of differentiate them a little bit more. And Sure, it kind of sucks if you're getting in on the Pixel 10 because maybe you get a downgraded camera by comparison. But from a business standpoint, I can kind of understand. You got to give people a reason to plug up, to pony up for the next step. And yeah, that's I think where my mind is at on it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm the least because I don't know enough about this stuff to argue, and just like I'm not even like I feel like we've reached a point with these camera stuff where like take pictures compared to pictures we took 10 years ago. It's like I can't even believe the output we get, right? So like they were talking a matter of so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I guess it's also a question of whether telephoto was something that people were itching for, and maybe. I mean, I don't personally know. I'm not a hardware person anymore, but it could be that this was a reasonable technological hardware design restraint. That if you wanted 3 cameras, the first 2 are going to have to get a downgrade. I'm just kind of curious because personally, I'm not very good with telephoto lenses. It's not really. I'm not very good with photography in general. I'm just kind of curious to hear from either you guys or anybody out there that loves them. The telephoto lens just is that.
I love a telephoto lens.
We need to. What we need to do. We need to get Miriam on the show and get that perspective because if anybody has an opinion on this, I'm sure Miriam does. So.
Yeah, I mean, I am a huge fan of telephoto lenses, and I would rather have one than not. So getting one on the 10. That would make me happy. But having one is better than not having one. What is the quality of the lens, and the pictures that are there? And again, giving people a reason to actually pony up for the next step up. So if it's there, great. I mean, that does kind of negate what I was saying earlier because it brings a telephoto into the picture that wasn't there before. And so that was a kind of a differentiator. But if the quality of the cameras are on the Pro and the XL and the 10 is like lesser, but still good enough, like you said, Ron, I mean, these cameras are great.
Yeah.
They're all great. It's just like great or greater, you know what I mean? Or greatest. Exactly. You kind of can't go wrong these days, at least not from Google's cameras.
Until it comes out and everybody complains that the photo quality is crap, and then they blame this decision on it, and so we'll see.
I will say as a Pixel Fold user, just real quick before we move on, I know we have to. I actually noticed a difference in quality between, and again, I'm a bad photographer, so this might be a win problem. I do notice a difference between, for say, like my photos on my Pixel 9 Fold and my sister who has like the Pixel 9 Pro. I do notice a difference. And for what it's worth, for those foldy folks out there, it turns out that the sensor in here, the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, was from the 8A, and it looks like the Pixel 10 will get the 9A sensor. So take that as what you will. And if the camera has become like a deal breaker for you on the Fold, might continue to be so. But not to say there's anything wrong with the 9A series sensor, but it does not compete with the Pro and Pro XL. Okay.
Yeah. Trade-offs. You're paying for the folding aspect of that phone,
which is fair. Like I said, I'm a shit photographer, so maybe that's what I need.
Yep. We'll see. All right. Well, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we got a couple of app news and some of your emails, you the listeners. So we'll be back in a moment. All right.
Blast through apps.
First up, blasting through apps. First up is another article from Mishaal. He can't be here yet. He's always here. Talking about Android Auto, specifically around the fact that looks like Google has developed a dash cam app for cars that have Android Automotive, but don't get your hopes up because you can't download it. Basically, Google has the hopes to enable more cars to be able to record their surroundings with their built-in cameras, and so they've developed this dash cam app to do that. A lot of cars that run Android Auto don't have a native dash cam app, so Google's thinking that this solution could help them roll it out. The dash cam app is ready to go, and car makers could deploy it as is, or they can make customizations and make their own changes to it if they want to get it out there. So interesting that they did it, that they're thinking in this way. Not every car has a dash cam, and so you potentially would need to buy a dash cam for it in order to do it. And if you go into Mishaal's article, he goes into the details as to where the files of the videos would be stored and how to integrate dash cam and things like that, kind of more under the hood information. But interesting car stuff for those of you who are interested in that world.
Yeah, seeing more and more dash cams actually out in the wild. And actually, this company is Nextbase. I have their dash cam downstairs, and I'm planning on testing it. So the Nextbase IQ dash cam. But I don't have Android Auto in my vehicle, the one that this would connect to. So I can't test that aspect of it. But there you go.
Yep.
Microsoft is expanding its Copilot Vision feature to Windows and mobile devices. And this kind of ties in with what we were talking about earlier, as far as like all the companies kind of doing very similar things right now, following kind of, they're all on similar tracks right now as far as bringing in more multimodality into AI products and everything. And in this case, Copilot Vision is broadening the feature set beyond just the web. It could only analyze web pages in Edge before. Now it can process real-time video from mobile cameras. So similar to screen sharing, apparently. And, you know, in many ways kind of sounds similar to me to the update that Google Live, to a certain degree, has announced and is rolling out now. So, like I said, they're all on kind of a similar pathway. They want to be sure they don't want to be left behind. Microsoft's no different. So there you go.
All right. Well, we talked about Windows 11 phone link quite a bit in the show, but you might actually be a fan of a different app called Intel Unison. This was an app released by Intel, I think around 2022, and it had a lot of the same features that Windows 11 phone link has, which is allowing you to connect a PC to a smartphone. But actually, an Android or an iOS phone was able to use this app, and you could do things like transfer files, make calls, send and receive messages, see your phone notifications rather on your PC, as well as do cool things like be able to use universal control feature on tablets, or even use a tablet to extend your PC screen. This was a Windows 11 thing, and it was actually really highly rated, 4.5 stars on Google Play and 4.7 on Apple App Store, which is pretty remarkable for something that does a lot of hardware communication stuff. Well, I'm sorry to say, if you are an Intel Unison user, you're not going to be for very long. Unfortunately, Intel is shutting down that app, and it will cease to work after June 2025. But yeah, kind of, I never heard of this, but it's pretty remarkable in that it does a lot of what PhoneLink does, but cross-platform like between Android and iOS. So sorry, iOS fam. I don't know if you made use of this option, but it's one that's less available to you. Android folks, of course, you got Windows 11 and PhoneLink.
You got choices.
Yeah, choices still.
Choices.
Fortunately.
Choices.
I didn't even know this existed, so I can't
Yeah, I know.
It's too bad though, because it sounded great and it had some
Yeah.
extra features on top of PhoneLink, and it was cross-platform. And it's gone.
You didn't even know what you had, and now you lost it. So there you go.
Don't know what you got until it's gone. We're full of songs today. Sorry for those of you who
musical
hate.
episode of
I know.
Android
Sorry.
Faithful.
There are
All right.
people out there that hate that on podcasts. And for
True.
the two of you, I'm sorry. For the rest of you, you're welcome.
All right, let's get some emails from the folks, from the listeners, from the audience, from the Android Faithful themselves. Mr. Jason, you've got the first email.
Yes, indeed, I do. Dear Android Faithful, longtime listener, first-time caller. Seems like there is an issue with the Play Store, Play Pass, and premium titles. Users on Reddit are reporting being able to access games without having an active Play Pass subscription. I couldn't test this myself as I am an active subscriber. That's when I discovered someone had mentioned Monster Hunter Stories being affected as well. I had never purchased the game, and sure enough, the game said I could install it without purchase. And that's exactly what I did. The game opens and runs just fine. What I think is happening is that any title that is or was once available on Play Pass, if you installed it, became linked to your account. I had previously installed the game, but never actually played it. It was removed from Play Pass a few months ago, if I recall correctly. Says he's also attached a few screenshots showing the Play Store listing on Google with the expected $19.99 price tag. Wow, you got a pricey free game. The listing is as it appears in the Play Store. For me, it installed and the game's title screen. So there we go. Now we can see it.
Down here, we're showing on the screen at the bottom. Here you see apps, and you see Monster Hunter Stories for $19.99 on the left, and then on the right, you see he has the ability, the screenshot, he can install it.
Wow.
And then you can see here, after he installed it, he can play it, and then sure enough, the screenshot confirming that it loaded. So
Thank you for all of the visual proof.
yes. So and he also and Jason, I don't know if you can pull up. Actually, he shared the Reddit link. There's a Reddit thread where everyone is actively talking about this. I don't know if this is one of those things where this is a bug in the system that hasn't been fixed up yet or not. But if you go to the subreddit Android Gaming, a conversation started about 2 days ago where everyone's talking about it and sharing their examples and things like that. So if you're into gaming and you don't have Play Pass and you want free games, maybe get it while it's hot. Maybe not. I don't know. Who knows what's going on? I don't know.
They might disappear from your library once things are fixed, or who the heck knows? But it seems to be working for some folks out there.
Yeah.
He does say PS. Should I read the PS?
Yeah, do it. Totally do it. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. Let's see it. There we go. There you go. Oh, right. Is that the wrong one?
Yep,
yeah, there we go. PS. While by the way, this is TJ Stofflet, aka Gastroff, says PS. While not DeX, I regularly use Motorola's Ready for and Smart Connect technology. I do not have a computer or a laptop and rely solely on my Moto Razr 2024 for all of my needs. I use a USB hub with keyboard and mouse connected either to my phone or TV, and I have a Razer Kishi Ultra for a handheld controller. I use a combination of apps for everything from basic office tasks to gaming on GeForce Now, Xbox Game Pass, and Play Pass. I really have embraced the Android-only / mobile lifestyle. It took a little bit to adapt, but after a while, it became a fun challenge to see just how much I could get away with using only my phone. That's dedication, man. I got to give you credit for that.
We talked
that's like all in.
I know we talked a lot about Samsung DeX users, but I guess there's also Motorola Ready for and Smart Connect people out there. I mean,
who knew?
That's wild.
Yeah.
So,
thank you for sending that in.
TJ. You do you.
Maybe in a world of treats, we all need to start finding multiple uses for our phones.
Yeah. Especially if those Motorola phones were built in Texas. So
there you go.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, our second email is from Larry. Larry says, "Hi, I love the show. I listen every week and listened to all about Android before that. I am all in for Google Pixel phones. I had the 3A, 6A, 7A, and now the 8A that I received from an insurance payout after the battery on the 7A started swelling. I use the older 6A to download your show and other podcasts to listen to at work using Google earbuds. I use the new 8A for web surfing, email, text, and phone calls. Both phones have SIM cards. My question is this. Is there a way to connect the earbuds to both phones simultaneously? I sometimes don't hear the 8A phone ring while listening to podcasts on the 6A phone. Or do you know of a third-party app that would allow a Bluetooth connection to both phones simultaneously? Thank you, Larry Moyer, Metamora, Michigan."
So this is a great question, Larry. I thought that multi-point technology should be able to do this, right? And so multi-point is basically the technology that allows Bluetooth devices to connect to two devices at once, right? And so over on the Google Pixel Buds help page and on the Google support section, there's a whole article that says use multi-point and audio switch on Google Pixel Buds Pro and seamlessly switch connections between multiple devices using audio switch and multi-point connectivity. So I think you can. Maybe you just have to turn. So it says you need to turn on multi-point connectivity. Multi-point connectivity is off by default. So you need to go. You need to go to the setting. So you need to go to on your Pixel phone. You need to go to settings, then connected devices, and then tap on settings by your Pixel Buds, and then go to more settings, then multi-point, and then turn on use multi-point.
Now he does say in the email using Google earbuds, which could mean that you have Pixel Buds A series.
Okay.
Or I mean, this FAQ says multi-point connectivity Pixel Buds Pro only.
Okay.
So that might limit, like if you have older buds, that they might not support multi-point. They might not be able to do this. So it really depends on what you have specifically.
Yeah.
But yes, it's supported on some of their buds. It's just not on all of them. Yeah. That I think you're exactly right, Ron. I think that's the solution. It's just a question of do his particular buds actually support it based on what Google's saying here.
There's also fast switch, but fast switch wouldn't help. And yeah, Jason,
what is fast switch?
I just dropped the link in the doc. You can pull up fast switch about that. This is back from 2022, which is basically audio switching between Android devices with Pixel Buds Pro. So Fast Switch allows you to basically, it's an extension of Fast Pair, which basically allows you to, it says, let's say you're listening to music on your Pixel 6 Pro with paired earbuds. You're also paired to a tablet with the same earbuds. You want to listen to a video on the tablet. You pause the music and play the video on a separate device, and the audio will kick over. It basically handles the switching between the two devices.
Oh.
But that requires an action to be made. Whether or not that would work for the ringing to break through you listening to something on the other device, I don't know if that would work or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good question.
It sounds like multi-point was a feature of Bluetooth 4.0. So as a baseline, your device would need to support Bluetooth 4.0, and apparently the ability to stream media from two devices at a time, which I don't know if necessarily means watching a movie here and listening to podcasts here, or just literally just having any kind of output from two devices at the same time, is highly dependent on the device itself, whether it supports it correctly.
Right.
So this article that I'm reading from soundguys.com says something like the Sony WH-1000XM4, for example, does support multi-point. Oh, never mind. That's not it. But it's a mixed bag. It sounds like even if you have Bluetooth 4.0, it has to be a specific, a well implemented version of multi-point.
Yeah, it's got to be multi-point. Yeah, so maybe you guys time to update if you want that update to the Buds Pro, and that should do it for you. I hate the answer to be get a new pair of earbuds, but get a new pair of earbuds.
Well, I mean, if the hardware doesn't support it, it's just the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It
just is what it is.
Yeah.
But hopefully that's helpful, Larry.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah. Good question.
All right.
All right.
Well, there you go. You can email us at contact@androidfaithful.com. We love to hear from you. Also, send in your Bug Droid artwork if you like. Spring and summer is coming. We want to see your wacky Bug Droid depictions. And also send your Dex or Motorola smart workspaces, and send any T-shirt ideas. Just flood us with email. We want to hear from you. Contact@androidfaithful.com.
Love hearing from you guys.
So that's going to wrap up this week's edition of Android Faithful. We thank you for listening. You guys are all the best. But before we go, Win, congratulations on your new gig. Netflix is very lucky to have you. Where else can people find you?
You can find me on my website, randomlytyping.com. All of my Android-related stuff is there. And you can find me on the interwebs at Queen Code Monkey or at queencodemonkey.dev on Blue Sky.
Cool. And Jason, what you told us about AI Inside? What else is going on in your world?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this week I have kind of two big things happening. First, yes, AIinside.show. Go there, subscribe to the podcast, get the Jan LeCun interview when that drops tomorrow morning. And then I didn't type it in advance, but if you go to my YouTube channel, just search for Jason Howell on YouTube and you'll find me. Subscribe to my channel, primarily because I was in Colorado with our friend Shannon Morse this last weekend, and we were working on some collaborations, and we got some stuff posted between both of our channels on Thursday. And I can't really talk about it yet, but
Very
if
exciting.
you don't want to miss it, you want to follow there because you might actually get something out of the whole equation. So that's all I'm going to say. Search for
exciting.
Jason Howell and Shannon Morse on YouTube.
Good stuff. I'm going to be watching on Thursday. I know for sure. Anybody who's a fan of this show is going to want to watch as well. So
I think so.
yes. And lastly, you can find me over on social. I'm at RonXO across all the various things. Go follow me. I'm most active on Instagram. Although I posted on Threads.
And you lived?
That I saw the Minecraft movie.
Yes, I saw that.
And I keep getting alerts from Threads about the view count on the post getting. It's gotten over 1,000 views so far. I don't think I've gone viral, so to speak, but I've definitely gotten a lot of attention to my mini review of taking my children to see Minecraft. I will say, and it won't be long because I know we're running long the show. And Jason, when you guys know this, my entire career has been spent around going in fandom, watching passionate communities get to see the things they love on big screens or in things, whether it's music or movies or TV, whatever, whether it's been Marvel and all the various things I've been able to experience, Star Wars, like so many amazing things. The experience of seeing the Minecraft movie on the weekend, on opening weekend, probably top 5.
Wow.
I did not expect it. And let me say, I don't know what the hell was going on.
You didn't get it.
my
It's not
kid-
your fandom.
I took my kids to see the 2 p.m. showing on a Saturday, and it was sold out. It was packed. There were two standing ovations. They broke out into applause more times than I could count. They went crazy. Not as crazy as the viral clips that have gone around on lately with people with police coming and stuff like that, thankfully. But it was all like
Wow.
9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds and like a couple of 15-year-olds, and like that was it. And they were like, Jack Black would just say what I thought were normal words, and they'd all start cracking up and applauding. Like, it was amazing. Then we went home, and my kids were like, wouldn't stop talking about it. Like, can we see it again tomorrow? And I was like, sure. So we went to go see it on Sunday at the 3:00 showing, sold out again, packed theater. I counted, they broke out into applause 29 times.
No way.
29 times. It was
Wow.
insane.
And
So-
and from a pure entertainment standpoint for you and the movie, what would you give
the
it?
movie
Thumbs
was
up?
horrible. It's a horrible movie. I mean, no, it's not horrible. I mean, it was fine. I mean, like,
it's for who it's for.
putting my middle-aged 20 years as a critic, media, my degrees and all this sort of stuff. Like, I can see it's been edited to hell. Like, they reference something that's not in this movie like a couple of times.
Now
right?
you've seen it
Like,
enough times.
Yeah,
that you
like
can pick out those holes.
picked up that, but like Jack Black was funny, Momoa was funny, like the story got you there. It hit all the notes. Like, like my son basically told me what the message of the movie was. Is like, you should be, being creative is good, and like, great, you got it, you got the message, and so but like, but it was just great to see like a passionate audience connect with, like, get validated and see the thing they love up on the big screen. That was like heartwarming, and it was awesome. So all in all, it was a good. So if you follow me on Threads, every now and then I drop that kind of knowledge. So there you go.
Nice.
So
Beautiful.
Love it.
yes. So excellent. All right. Well, let's go wrap it up. Tune in next week when Mishaal is back. I will not be here though. I'm taking next week off. But we will all be back later this month. We live stream this show every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on the Daily Tech News Show, YouTube and Twitch channels. You can subscribe to the show at AndroidFaithful.com. Get all of our writing and articles at AndroidFaithful.com. And until next week, we love you. Thanks for listening. We'll
Love
see you next
you.
time. We are Android Faithful.
Love you so much. Oh, my Mac just popped up a
figured.
thing that said add effects using hand gestures. It's like, we noticed you did it. We want to put the thing on the thing, but you told us not to. Can
We
we?
really want you to do
We
it.
really want to. Can we please?
All right.
All right.
stuff.
Yay.
All right. So Showbot is having a cranky day.
Oh dear.
So I don't think we need to use Showbot because I don't think anything actually got in. And does anybody think that the show title is anything other than my next phone is a Centa-Fold?
No, I think that's great. I love
It
it.
can't be the whole thing, but when does that
That's
accurately?
beautiful. That's beautiful, and I'm pretty sure that was from BioCow. So
Right.
with proper credit, although Cousin of definitely contributed. I
My
think.
next phone is a Centa-Fold.
Next phone is
Ah.
a Centa-Fold.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right. So Clinton is telling me that Showbot does have titles though, but it's not loading for me. So
Yeah, it wasn't loading for me either.
yeah. All right, we're gonna go Centa-Fold. So all right.
Okay. Fun times, y'all. So next week you're out, Ron.
Yes, I am out. I will
Okay.
not be here. I'll be on vacation. Spring break. Woo.
Yay. Spring break is this week here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Mishaal will
hard
be
to
back,
focus.
and then Win is gone the 22nd, right? Win.
Yes.
And then Cousin Ajah just shared all of the titles.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Everything about Android, episode
That-
1, terrific news. I mean, this should be the title of the episode.
Oh
by
my
the way.
God,
This
can
should
you imagine?
this should just be the whole thing.
Screw SEO.
We get so many emails like, I think you missed
Indiana-
something.
Indiana
Copy-paste
Jones and the
issue.
Holy Gradle.
Yeah, that was from a Twitch site.
The Gradle will rock.
Yes, the droid that rocks the cradle. Oh, I love that the droid that rocks the cradle.
Nah. My cell phone is a Centa-Fold.
Android in a Centa-Fold.
Is it
That's
Android
good.
in a Centa? Is it what? So what? So I have my next phone is a Centa-Fold.
Yeah, I think that works.
My next phone
Oh,
is a
it loaded
Centa-Fold.
for me finally.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
Because we were talking about treats, since that's what I was like. I said whatever my line was about mid-range. My mid-range will not be sold.
Yeah.
So my next phone is a Centa-Fold. Yeah.
My next.
Oh,
phone
there
is
we
a
go.
Yep.
Come on, go display. Holy cow.
I just want to make this the title. There you go.
It's everything.
Monica or monocle. It was we had a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah.
TARDIS phone. Oh man.
Oh, monocular Android, Samsung pamphlet phone. That's nice. Yeah, I like my next phone as a Centa-Fold. Because we don't have to. Sometimes we put Android in the title. It's like, well, we are an Android show. We don't need it.
Yeah, exactly.
We already have it there.
Yeah,
a little redundant.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, everybody.
Cool.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being with us. And yeah,
I'll miss you all next week.
we will miss
We'll
you
miss you
too,
too.
Ron. But we get it.
Yes.
Spring break is important.
The children need attending.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard working when it's
I
spring
won't be
break.
working,
And
we're actually going. We're going to Florida. So
good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Fun.
Yeah. So
And hi, Burke. Good to have you here, bud.
Yep.
Hope you're doing well.
yay, Burke.
Frick is the
Yay.
best.
Pew pew.
Pew, pew.
All right.
All right. We're going to go ahead and shut this down because it's almost 7 and we got to get started on post-prod. Post-prod. That's what we call it because we're cool. Thanks, everybody. Hope to see you tomorrow. AI Inside. Just say it one more time.
Yeah.
Boopy-doop.
Go watch AI Inside. Yep.
Boopy doop. All right, everybody. See you later.
Bye.
Have a great night.